Boo.
Hello, everybody.
We're back.
It has been a few weeks. I apologize. I had went out of town for one of the weeks, and I got a migraine for another. So it gets to be a long time
Yeah.
if we just miss a little bit. So I apologize. Um, we have the girls in the background, and we have names for the girls now.
Yes, we do.
They aren't creepy or anything. Not at all.
No.
All
And don't
right.
they look so
So
pretty?
this one right here is Nettie. Nettie, you want to tell everybody her name?
Her name is Drusilla.
Drusilla. And then this one, RV Underway, I think is the one who ended up naming her. And she is Decaying Darlene. So that's their names. They're just going to kind of hang out back there while we tell this story.
Yep. Gotta have our girls.
Gotta have the girls with us. All right, so let's hop over here and welcome everybody in real quick. We had Nomadic Hippie in here first. He said a reminder. We have Uncle Lisa Productions in here. That means he's up
Yay.
in the middle of the night to watch us. So, thank you.
Makes me feel special.
It does. It makes me feel special. He gets up and watches us. That's so sweet. And we have Johnny's Journey. She just had a really good premiere showing one of the vans that she just rebuilt, and it was really cool. So if you didn't watch that, go back and watch it. It turned out really, really good. I like the backsplash, and I like the fact that you put the lift for the fridge so that she didn't have to bend down all the time. Anyway, go watch that video, everybody. All right. And then we have Thrifty Angela. Hello, hello. A big storm. Hope you guys don't lose power or anything.
Yeah.
Then we have Keely. Hello, hello. I hope I'm saying that right. I think that's the only way you can say it, isn't it? I don't know. All right. And then Nomadic Hippie is driving and can't read. Pay attention to the road, please.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Debbie Johnson. Hello, hello, and welcome. Hitch Up in Tow. Hello and welcome. Chasing America. Hello. You are catching us live. Hello and welcome.
Yay.
All right. So, Tommy Travels. Hello. You had me at spectacular explosions, says Shaco. Today's story actually is going to cover some history. It's going to cover a tragedy. And then if we have enough time at the end, I'd like to kind of talk about one of the people involved's particular like story and what they faced after this. So we're going to jump right in and get to talking about this particular event. I'll let Nettie go first.
The historic Indiana event, the 1963 Holiday on Ice explosion. Originally opened in 1939 as part of President Franklin D. Roosevelt's Work Progress program, the Coliseum and Livestock Pavilion became an iconic landmark for Indianapolis.
1939 to 1952. From basketball to hockey to presidential visits, no other venue in Indiana has added the same degree of sports, entertainment, and pop culture history to our state like the Indiana Farmers Coliseum. Hey, Shanna Craft. This place is huge.
It is, right?
Harlem
Harlem
Globetrotters.
The arena has hosted many famous speakers and events as John F. Kennedy, Elvis, and the Jackson Five are included amongst the many famous faces to have graced the stage of the Coliseum.
Some more basketball. President. However, there is one event in the history of the arena that is in 1963, Holiday on Ice, disaster, a tragedy, which ended with scores of people killed and hundreds more injured.
On the 31st of October, 1963, the Coliseum was hosting a Halloween special. The entire floor of the arena has been transformed into a huge ice rink for the Holiday on Ice spectacular.
Holiday on Ice, 1963. These glitzy events, a melange of ice skating, dance music, and fireworks, were incredibly popular with families during the 1950s and the 1960s. I would just like to say that these events went on to be very popular all the way through the 80s. I'm just saying. Just saying.
Look how cool. The Halloween show attendance record for that night show that over 4,300 people were present as men, women, and children packed into the arena and settled in to watch the show.
Hippie said, when they say scores of people, I wonder how many people is a score, and usually scores are a good thing if it's a high score. Was the event called Explosion Capades?
Yeah.
Maybe it should have been. What's an event without a melange? I don't know.
Fancy.
Fancy. They were completely unaware that just beneath their feet, the seeds of disaster below the rows of seats was an access corridor where patrons could buy souvenirs and refreshments. A score is 20, a gross is 144. These costumes take forever to get in and out of, and they're so beautiful. But man,
It was here inside a storage room located adjacent to the gift store and concession stands that a rusty and corroded liquid petroleum cylinder was slowly but steadily leaking over the course of several hours. Look at all those
so many people.
people.
So many people. The sealed, unvented storage room had filled with flammable gas. All that was now needed was a spark. At around 11 p.m., one of the concession store managers noticed the whiff of gas coming from the room, forcing the door open. He saw what appeared to be a room full of white mist and the overpowering smell of gas. What's so freaky about this is they saw it coming. Like, can you imagine being the guys that saw this, like, saw it getting ready to happen and trying to stop it? and then having to live with the fact afterwards that
Yeah.
you were there and couldn't make it stop. I don't know. The white mist. Nothing says a good gas container like discount gas.
It looks corroded.
Oh, snap. Nice pun, Uncle Lisa, although slightly insensitive. All right, now, like we've ever been sensitive in this chat. All right.
Immediately realizing the danger, he called for his nearby coworkers to get away from the area. One employee went into the room to see if he could stop the leak, but he had to retreat, coughing and choking on the fumes, but it was already too late.
He said, Johnny's Journey said, I want some of that discount now. Acme Gas. Boom. Nomadic Hippie said the same thing. Acme Gas. Ugh. Yeah, I mean, they were trying to stop it. You know what I mean? Like they saw it coming and they're trying to stop it.
Yeah.
This is back when everybody got dressed up to go to events. Look how fancy all like the little boys are in their suits and ties.
Mm-hmm.
The escaped gas had reached the concession stands and it had come into contact with the glowing hot heating element of a popcorn making machine. The audience above was getting ready for the show's big finale when the gas exploded.
And I think it's ironic it was on Halloween.
Yeah, ironic that it was on Halloween. They tried stopping it, and then also this is the very end of the show.
Yeah.
They had almost made it through. Like there's so many things that could have gone differently in this.
Yeah. The explosion originated on the southeast corner of the Coliseum around aisle 13. It caused extensive damage, injury, and death. People sitting in the area comprising 700 square feet around the blast area flew onto the ice and into other parts of the Coliseum. Debris, including seats, steel bits, and chunks of concrete, scattered everywhere.
Some of the comments over here. All that remained was a huge pile of slightly melted Purim glasses. 30 Angela is back just in time. It started pouring outside. Oh boy. Hope everyone's having a great day so far. We almost sent a search party for you, Thrifty Angela. We were hoping you didn't get caught up out there. I guess they shouldn't have hired Wile E. Coyote for purchasing the gas. This is very true. Very true. That's what they said about Titanic too. Dang, they almost made it. I mean, if there was just better architecture,
Yeah.
it would have solved the whole thing. Sorry, had to, Tommy. You're in here. Jeez. Look at how many of those cans are in here, though.
I know.
If one was leaking, you got to think that more were leaking their discount gas, right? And look how many of them are stacked in that building. Bodies and body parts were hurled up and out, some crashing into the arena roof, high above before falling back down onto the ice. Audience members sitting across from the blast were peppered with flying chunks of masonry, metal, and concrete. I'm sure they were also like hit with body parts as well. I mean, they
Yeah.
just said that body parts were flying into the ceiling. I'm sure they were landing on the people as well, which, oh, I can't even imagine. Shago said in gold fillings. Peppered is an unfortunate term. But yeah, I would agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
It looks like the Kool-Aid man busted through the wall. I was thinking that same thing. It really
Oh,
did.
yeah. Isn't that what he said?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I wonder if they canceled the show after that. Hang in there, Tommy Travels. Hang in there.
A 50-foot crater opened in the floor around the blast area, and those unfortunate souls who fell into the crater were incinerated by a fireball flowing. Where am I? By a fireball flowing the blast. Survivors filed out of the arena in stunned silence as emergency crews poured in.
So then they say like the first blast happened and that's what like threw everybody up and out. And then a second blast happened. So you imagine there's the big hole from the first blast, right? And then
Yeah.
and that threw all the people everywhere and body parts and whatnot. Gruesome. I know. I'm just trying to describe it so you can imagine what you're seeing. And remember, this is like an event that kids are at, right, with their parents. So the first blast happens and that happens. And then the second blast goes off and that shoots fire out of that hole that was just created. So now you've got people that fell into that hole and you've got fire coming out of that hole now as well. I just can't imagine what these kids, because everybody was separated at that point,
Yeah.
right? There's no way that anyone was able to remain with whoever they were with once that blast happened. So I just can't imagine what anyone was feeling at that point. I know we joke a lot in the chat, which helps us get through a lot of these hard
It
subjects.
does. Yeah.
But I just want everybody to think about that for just a minute, that there was actually two blasts. The first one throwing everyone into a million different directions, that this was a kids type of event, so it was families. And thirdly, that fire came next from that giant hole. So, all right. They did say that there was more police on staff that night because this happened on Halloween.
Mm-hmm.
And so they were expecting kids to kind of stir up a little bit of trouble. So thankfully, they had more police on staff that night than they normally would. So they were able to kind of jump into action a little quicker than they normally would, from what I read anyway.
Yeah.
All right. So this is the ice, right? And
Uh-huh.
I guess this is where they start to clear this afterwards.
Yeah, it looks like this is when everybody's out of the Coliseum.
Gotcha. Is it your turn?
Oh, yes, your turn, baby.
Oh, my turn. Eyewitness Walter Spangler described what happened. Suddenly, there was a dull thump. Immediately, there was a tremendous column of fire about 15 feet in diameter and 40 to 50 feet high. Along with it was literally a column of bodies. I seen dozens of people flying through the air, their arms and legs outspread Then there was just screaming. So that would be the second explosion, I would guess.
Yeah.
Unreal. Hitchup and Toe, bringing up popcorns a little bit over the limit. I don't know what you were thinking. It's amazing the damage popcorn can do. Redenbacher, he's using the speech to text. Ovo Redenbacher almost went out of business due to this situation. Don't you love speech to text, how well it works?
Yeah.
Using speech to text.
The scene of destruction was so appalling that most of the witnesses seemed to be in shock. Often in these situations, rushing for the exits can cause more injury than the initial incident, but much to the credit to the audience, there's no mass rush or panic to the exits.
Yeah, that's something I was reading in the Survivor story that hopefully we'll have time to get to. Is she was saying it was just silent.
Yeah.
That nobody was freaking out or panicking, and much to what she thought it was just everybody was shocked. They didn't know what to do.
Yeah. I even seen that one lady that witnessed it thought it was part of the show at first, and she was just trying to understand what was happening because it was the end of the show and then the explosion happened.
Yeah.
And she kept saying, "Is this part of the show?"
Well, I think they were expecting fireworks at the end, so an explosion wouldn't be too far off from fireworks, except for I guess when body parts were coming down on you, that would be kind of a clue that that's not
part of the show.
Tommy Travels. I'd hate to be the Zamboni driver at this rate. Oh, that's bad. Funny, bad. Funny, bad. I'm guessing they had to get a bulldozer in there instead of the Zamboni.
Yeah.
Oh, a second explosion rocked the arena, sending a huge fireball to the rafters. The performers left the ice in an orderly manner, and in an almost surreal touch, the band kept on playing as the arena was evacuated of all who were able to walk out. Kind of like Titanic. To keep everybody calm, the band just kept playing. I don't know how you would do that. Just keep playing in a situation like that. Oh, a finger just landed on my violin. It's okay. Keep playing.
Keep playing.
Like, I don't know. Then you just yell psych over the loudspeaker. It's all a joke.
Emergency response to the disaster was quick, but responders were quickly overwhelmed by the magnitude of the disaster. With such an overwhelming body count, Indianapolis officials converted the Coliseum ice rink into a temporary morgue.
What if, okay, because they were saying they thought somebody would play a prank. That's why they had the extra police, because they thought somebody was going to play a prank because it was Halloween night, and that's what kids did back then, was play pranks. So Shako said, imagine if it was just fireworks and a clever guy throwing a side of beef and a wood chipper at the audience. Like, what if that was like a thing? And then they were just like, oh, just a joke, psych. That'd be kind of crazy. You know what I mean? But I think that's like part of why the audience was just sitting there, because they thought maybe it was a joke. You know what I mean? Like, who would actually think that what was happening was real? I don't think it would. Something that big and that drastic, I don't think you would grasp right away.
Yeah.
I don't even think you'd grasp it till a few days later, honestly.
Be in shock.
Yeah. With rows of bodies laid out on the ice on plywood boards, blankets were brought to cover the dead partially to preserve some dignity, but also to help the people involved in ongoing rescue avoid the sight of the severe injuries. Most of the dead were so badly burnt that rescuers had no idea if they were men or women. This got me when I was looking through this earlier. Like, I mean, it's like a morgue setup, but when you think about this was supposed to be family fun. You know, like you take your kids to go do something that's supposed to be making memories that are going to last a lifetime. These are not the memories you were trying to make at all. You know, I don't know. This picture got me. It's getting me now.
Yeah. The rescue efforts began, most of them still trapped in the debris. Police, firefighters, audience members who had stayed behind, even members of the band, joined into the task of desperately trying to free those still alive, but they were trapped in the wreckage.
I have to give a big shout out to this band. I know that sounds silly, but seriously, the band kept playing to keep people calm. And then once, everybody was calm and gone and they needed help rescuing people, the band jumped in and started helping to rescue people. So this band, I hope that they got some kind of recognition afterwards.
I would imagine that just the rescue efforts were gory, trying to get the survived people, the kids, whoever might have been under the debris out. What was on top of them had to have been tragic, experiencing all of that.
Third Angela, that's what I was thinking. It's like the Titanic again. The band helps. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Hey, Happy Place. Yeah, this is another one that just gets me.
Yeah, especially the one on the left. You could tell. To me, it looks like a woman, and I that got me too.
Those are mothers and fathers. I don't know. That's a hard one. Aunts and uncles, grandmas and grandpas that took their kids. Those are kids. Some of those are kids.
Yeah.
A makeshift hospital opened in the nearby cattle barn. In all, 74 people were killed and around 400 people injured. I guess this is the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, the painted nails. Everybody paints their nails nowadays, huh, Shakaton?
One local reporter later described the carnage as the worst I have seen since combat in World War II. Dick Baldwin, a staff photographer for the WRTV local television station, who was on site minutes after the initial blast, described the scene. When I got inside, you could see the fire and the debris and the bodies and the blood. It was like a Hollywood set, but it was a disaster movie instead of the real thing.
Um, Nancy Kerrigan, the Nancy Kerrigan joke. I seen it, hippie. Um, and Tommy, where was that comment from you? Hold on one second. Oh, the misgendered thing. Well, that's what they were saying. Was they couldn't tell if they were men or women. Some of them.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think some of them. Hey everyone, I'll be listening and putting away groceries. Hello, Linda Barker. Thanks for joining in. Yeah, the fact that this looked like a Hollywood movie but was actually real life is kind of insane.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm guessing this is right where the initial blow up was.
Because look how
Explosion.
small those guys are standing in that hole.
Yeah. Now, Shaco, you leave Linda alone. Oh, Uncle Lisa's saying we almost sent a search party for Thrifty Angela. Rescue efforts continued through the night. The area around the Coliseum was in chaos, with numbers of dazed and wounded audience. Ugh. The area around the Coliseum was in chaos, with numbers of dazed and wounded audience members mingling with the arrival of crowds and onlookers.
Oh yeah, people from just outside that didn't go to the show must have been just looky-loos everywhere.
Well, and I'm sure like the people that were in there that like had like imagine if you bumped your head really hard, you're probably like kind of out of it, and then you're out just kind of wandering around and they're trying to locate you, but you're off, you know what I mean? Like that probably was getting a little bit
Yeah.
confusing.
Police reporter Richard Roberts stated the fairgrounds itself was almost like a battleground. The surrounding streets thick with police and the edges of the streets jammed with crowds like war refugees.
An army of volunteers worked through the night, pulling the injured from the wreckage, clearing debris, and helping to identify the dead. By morning, the newspapers were reporting the grim tally. At least 65 had been killed, with over 400 injured. Hitch up and tow, exactly. People would have the
Yeah,
camera
I was
phones
thinking the
out.
same.
No respect for the people that are like that are passed on either, because like imagine in this situation you have your camera phone out and you're videotaping people that have passed on, and then those videos get out on social media and that's your
Oh,
loved one that you're now seeing burned and passed away, and it's all over social media and you have to see it repeatedly. Like that's so disrespectful. I don't know, that's the way I view it anyway.
yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry I didn't click the Nancy Kerrigan joke. I apologize. All right. It's a good joke.
Some of those with severe injuries died in the following days. The final number of people killed is thought to be 81. Entire families had been lost, and in some cases, young children had survived, but tragically lost both parents in the explosion.
Thrifty Angela, have you ever tried the like the bands that you can put around your dog so it feels like they're getting a hug constantly for during storms? A lot of people just use like an ace bandage. They wrap their dog in an ace bandage and it helps to calm them. Just an idea. My doggies aren't scared of storms, but I heard that works. The cause of this tragic Indiana event. Investigators determined the explosion's culprit to be poorly maintained propane tanks bought from the discount gas place, by the way. Poorly maintained propane tanks used to heat popcorn poppers in the concession area underneath the south side seats. paints. All of those things. Hitchup and toasted it. Can I have one of those bands?
These cylinders supplied by the discount gas company should not have been kept inside the arena. They were not even fitted with the standard safety caps, and many of the cylinders were found to be in poor condition.
Thrifty Angela, have you tried CBD? That's another option. Not THC, but just the CBD oils. Those are another option. So they weren't even supposed to be being kept inside the building. They should have been outside the building.
Yeah.
Nice. Not supposed to be in the building, and yet there was like 20 of them we saw in that picture there. Upon inspection, they discovered these propane tanks lacked safety caps, and at least one tank had a rusty valve. The valve leaked propane into the air, which ignited when contacted the popcorn poppers. I'm guessing discount gas isn't operating these days. I would hope not.
Yeah.
I was thinking of that, BB. Yeah, we do that with our dogs when we have to leave for long periods of time, like long periods meaning a whole day, because our dogs get anxiety when we separate from them. That's their anxiety thing. CBD helps. All right.
All of this should have been picked up in the routine safety inspections carried out prior to the Coliseum hosting any large event. The fire service only inspected the site about once a year. There were previous complaints made about the storage of the cylinders on site, but these complaints have been ignored.
Oh my God. Okay, first of all, hilarious. Elvis left the building, but the tanks stayed. Hitch up and tow. I need a new gas bottle for the caravan. Keep it outside and check its cap, please. And then, are you kidding me? They had previous complaints and they went ignored.
Yeah.
Unreal. Marion County Prosecutor Noble R. Percy convened a grand jury to investigate the explosion. The grand jury concluded that the propane tanks should not have been allowed into the building. Thrifty Angela, yes, it definitely sounds like, once again, something that could have been prevented had people just done the right thing.
"5 weeks of much finger pointing and blame shifting, 7 individuals were indicted. These included fire officials, Coliseum managers, and managers from the discount gas company."
The fire marshal and Indianapolis fire chief were also charged. However, public ire quickly faded in the wake of the tragedy. Only one individual, the president of the gas company, was convicted for assault and battery. Didn't people die? So wouldn't it be murder? It's not just assault and battery. People died. I don't understand that. To me, it seems like that he should have been convicted of murder.
Mm-hmm.
Also, whoever was told and left them in the building should also be charged. Angela said the same thing. Yes, why not murder? Seems most of the time things like this could be prevented. I agree.
Yeah. That charge was eventually overturned by the Indiana Supreme Court. Another gas employee was found not guilty. For the 5 remaining defendants, charges were dropped prior to trial. Multiple lawsuits ensued in the coming years, and victims eventually collected around 4.6 million in settlements.
I'm glad that like the victims were paid something, like something was paid out to all the victims. But, and I guess in actuality, when you look at the situation, like who's going to carry the most weight of the charges?
Yeah,
Because there's multiple people that would be responsible for that. The owners of the Coliseum, the people at the gas company for having the faulty cylinders, the people who stored the cylinders inside the building, the people that were told. There's so many people that should have been charged with that.
the
And I guess,
inspectors, the fire
yeah, the
marshals.
inspectors,
Yeah.
like all those people listed, how would you technically, I guess, law, like looking at the law side of that, how would you split that like sentencing up equally among those people? How could you do that fairly and justly? And if you can't, then you can't do it. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
which sucks, but Shaka, you should be compensated when you unwittingly attend a bomb concert. True.
Yeah.
The popcorn seller. Well, I don't know, because I don't know. The people in the concession stand really were trying to stop it. And it seems to me that they were complaining. Someone told on them for having the bottles in there. I would think it would be the concession workers that probably told. I could be wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
A lot of little things just added up to cause this horrific accident. True. Thanks for catching another live. I appreciate it. All right, let's keep going here.
Six weeks after the incident, the Coliseum reopened with a Poland Hereford cattle show. A year later, in September 1964, the Beatles performed on stage.
Did everybody hear that? Literally 6 weeks after the explosion. They waited a whole 6 weeks to reopen their door.
Yeah.
That seems pretty callous to me. If I get blown up and die, I want more than 4 million. I don't know. 6 weeks is craziness. I get the Beatles. That's a huge thing. They waited a little bit before they had the Beatles there.
Mm-hmm.
But 6 weeks and they had a cattle show? Like,
yeah.
Hey, Timmy Ray the King. Thrifty Angela said, that's a little disrespectful. I agree. That is really disrespectful to everybody that happened to. I wouldn't go, yeah, right? As a like a guest, I wouldn't be in that building 6 weeks after that happened. There's no way. And then in November, Holiday on Ice returned with crowds as large as 5,000. The Coliseum went on to host musical legends including the Beach Boys, the Rolling Stones, and the Indianapolis Pacers played there from 1967 to 1974. So Holiday on Ice made a return, and they had crowds larger than the crowds when it exploded. Yep. So Yeah, but those kettles were great ice skaters. That's funny. Yeah, I don't know. Something about like 6 weeks. Like the rest of it, I can
Yeah.
kind of get, like, they're not going to be able to just let that building go and do nothing. You know what I mean? It's got a lot of history. It's whatever.
But you know what
But
I heard that the family members were really ticked off about, not just the fact, that nobody was prosecuted, and they did receive a settlement, that if you go and you research, just go and research the history of the Coliseum, they do not at all say anything about what happened with Holiday on Ice explosion. There's nothing about that. The only thing that they did was put a placard on the building with the names of the people that passed. So they totally erased it from their history if you were to research the history of this Coliseum.
that's terrible.
Yeah.
Jackson 5.
Mm-hmm.
Is it your turn?
It's your turn.
My turn. Life in Indianapolis moved on. Soon the disaster was all but forgotten by the public. Survivors and relatives of the deceased, however, faced a lifetime of haunting memories of that deadly Halloween night. Here's the placard you were talking about. This is all that they did, was
That's
stick
all
a
they
placard
did.
on the building.
Yeah.
And this is it today?
Yes.
All right. So I did find a survivor story. I'm not gonna read the whole article because that would take forever for me to get through the whole article. But this is a child. She was a child at the time, and she went with her mom and dad. And I think it's important to just kind of, it's going to be sad, so sorry, but I think it's important to hear from her perspective what happened that day, and then kind of where her life went afterwards, like what she had to go through afterwards. So I'm going to try to kind of skip around in the article so that we're not here forever while I try to read it, because it's a really long article. But I just wanted to kind of give you guys a little bit of a glimpse of what someone who was there that day has had to live through since then. So let's go through this. Let me tell you her name. Her name is Janie White Hensley. She's a grandmother now. And Halloween 1963, the family's Ford Falcon turned onto 38th Street with Janie none the wiser. But when it pulled onto the state fairgrounds, she saw the sign out front, Holiday on Ice. Janie had been begging to go for years, and opening night was tonight, Janie's 13th birthday. Whenever she had asked to go in the past, the answer had been no, money was too tight. With her parents paying for With her parents paying for her sister's first year of college, Janie figured there was no chance this was the year. She hadn't even broached the subject. Yet, after dinner, Daddy had said he had to make a delivery for work. Would Janie like to tag along? Janie said yes, and Mommy said she might as well come too. At the fairgrounds, Daddy still wouldn't admit what he was up to. Alfred and Violet White had kept this as a secret since payday on the first of the month, and Al was in the mood to milk it. You're taking me to the ice show. No, I'm not. I have to deliver this motor. Then where are we going? The manufacturer's building. But We've already passed the manufacturer's building. The tickets finally came out when Daddy parked the car. And for the next couple of hours, Janie's birthday was about flashy lights and fancy costumes, an opera number, and a fairy tale. Janie sat between her parents. The seats were great, too. Sixth row. When her mother and father sprung for something, they made sure to do it right. But these 6th row seats happened to be on the Coliseum southeastern corner, and on Halloween night in 1963, towards the end of the Holiday on Ice show, that was just about the worst place you could possibly be. In a storage pit underneath their seats, a propane tank hissed like a tire swiftly losing air. A mist or maybe smoke rose from it. Okay, so we all know what was happening underneath their seats, so I'm going to kind of skip down a little bit. With the Holiday on Ice finale set to begin, Janie turned and thanked her parents for bringing her. Boom. The force of the first blast pushed upward and outward, catapulting people, seats, concrete, and steel into the air. It jarred loose a supporting wall part. Part of the flooring caved, forming a crater 50 feet wide down to the storage pit area. Many of the 4,327 spectators were now casualties. Some had been launched, landing on the ice or in the crater. Some had been crushed or struck by debris, mostly near the blast site, but also as far away as the other side of the rink. And some rushed in to help. Boom! A second blast, minutes later, created a fireball that rose as tall as the rafters. Emergency personnel swarmed the arena, scrambling to keep pace with the scale of the task. There's a hell of a mess out here, a fireman radioed back to dispatch as he asked for more support. How many hurt? Do you know? The dispatcher replied. Oh, hell, I imagine around 50, 75, maybe 100. What caused it, do you know? Gas blowed up, the fireman responded. You got the gas company on the way? When Janie awoke, she was buried under concrete. A boy, maybe 14 or 15 years old, was buried under her. Janie looked down at her blue and white gingham blouse. Her first thought was she saw the blood and she was in trouble. A brand new birthday gift from Grandma, and she had already gone and dirtied it up. She reached up and touched her hair. More blood. She traced it to the crown of her head. She pushed her thumb on the cut and came into direct contact with her own skull. The boy was doubled over, his torso over his legs in a kind of U shape. Janie lay prone on his back, her feet out behind her. Rescuers tried to pull the boy out from under her, or at least into a more upright position. But as they did, they pushed Janie up against a slab of concrete, pressing the air out of her lungs. She began to scream, I can't breathe, I can't breathe, I can't breathe. They finally pried the boy out and set about pulling on her. They didn't quite get her at first, as her feet were tangled in the rubble. Eventually, it was cleared away, and she was free. She was told to go to the hospital. She wasn't the type to disobey the orders of adults. She was Al and Violet White's daughter, after all. But this she could not abide. Again, she was Al and Violet White's daughter, after all, and they were missing. I'm not leaving until I find my parents. A heady police presence had been on site to snuff out Halloween vandalism. Now, if officers and their many incoming counterparts weren't extracting the injured from the rubble, they were piling up non-ownerless shoes, purses, and jackets and counting the dead. The cold of the ice made a natural choice for a morgue. Sorry, skipping ahead here to get to the other parts. A family friend of Janie's from the Tabernacle Church lived near the fairgrounds. Miss Goki had heard the explosion. It shook the china out of her cabinet, and she had come running. She bumped into Janie by chance. She, too, urged Janie to go to the hospital, but Janie still said no. Miss Goki sat Janie down in a chair in the care of a man loading people onto ambulances. Miss Goki went inside. Janie waited, her eyes scanning the scene. Each person on a gurney and walking out of the building could be Mommy or Daddy. Finally, Janie gave in and agreed to go to the hospital and sat in the passenger seat of a crammed ambulance. Doctors poured ice-cold water under her head and cleaned the wound and put stitches in. It felt like they were sewing two pieces of leather together, Janie said. X-rays didn't show any broken bones, so it was time for Janie to go home. By then, Miss Goki had come up to find her again. Janie asked Miss Goki if they had found her mother or her father. Miss Goki said no. Janie spent the night on Miss Goki's folded-out living room couch, able to sleep with the help of whatever they had given her at the hospital. The church minister came by the next morning. Her parents were gone. Janie's sister, Annie, had been calling from school in Kansas since the night before to wish her sister Janie a happy birthday. But now, because she had heard of the explosion on the radio, she didn't get through, so she called her father's office. The secretary told her what had happened. The White family doctor had identified Al and Violet, perhaps at the morgue on ice. When he visited later in the day, Janie asked him one question. Did they die instantly? As far as the doctor could tell, yes. Janie definitely did cry that day, and when Annie returned from college, the sisters hugged, though not for long because Janie's ribs were still too sore. But more than anything, Janie felt numb. I'm going to stop reading from the article at this point and just kind of give a sum up of what happened from there with Janie's life. So Janie at that point was given two options of where to go. She had a set of aunt and uncle in two different states. One was in California and one was in another state. And she had to choose who she was going to go live with. She didn't know them really well, either one of them. They lived in different states from where she was. So she had to choose, who she knew the best or who she was most comfortable with, and then choose to go live with that aunt and uncle. Her sister was off in college, so she wasn't going to live with her sister. So she chose the aunt and uncle she knew the best and chose to go live with them. She goes on to say that her mom and dad were very strict. Her aunt and uncle were very live your best life, do what you want kind of people. And that messed her up really bad because she was so used to living a really strict life. So they thought the best choice for her would then be go to boarding school. So they ended up putting her in a boarding school so she'd have more of a strict kind of life. She did try to go back to the Coliseum several different times. One, her really close friend was graduating high school. Or graduating college, one of the two. She had to stay outside until her friend was crossing the stage, and then she was able to run in, watch her friend cross the stage, and then run back out. Towards the end of the article, you find out that her sister and her go together, and I think she's a grandma at this point. Her and her sister end up being able to go in together, and she's able to see everything. And that's the first time that she's able to go into the Coliseum and actually see the whole place. She wasn't able to do that before. And I think when her daughter was a teenager is when she realized she needed to still deal with the trauma of everything that had happened, because her and her daughter was having some kind of issues. And she was having issues with her daughter leaving home, and it tracked back to her mom and dad leaving her so instantly. So she started therapy when she was an adult and her daughter was in high school. So, this is the story of a child that lost both parents in that incident. And I think it's important to kind of hear from a child going through it, what it must have been like and how it affected her long term. And it's mind blowing to me to have to, you know, you go to this event for her 13th birthday. Her parents were surprising her, you know, and then they're gone and you're having to choose where you're going to go
Can you
live away from everything you've ever known.
Having birthdays after that had to have crushed her, you know?
Yeah, I can't imagine. That's another thing they talk about in the article. Her sister no longer calls her on her birthday. They celebrate her birthday the day after. Her sister calls her the day after. You know, they've made adjustments to pretty much everything in her life to kind of, you know, level out everything. I can link this article if everybody's interested in reading the full article to get a better feel on how her adult life was affected. I'll put it up in the what do they call that section?
The description of the
I could put it in the description of this video. Yeah, I'll do that. I'll put it in the description of this video tonight. And if you guys want to go back and read the article in full, because it's a very long article. I even skipped big portions of what I was just reading. I skipped pretty big portions, but I'll put it in the description, like Nettie said here. And it's a good article to read and kind of you know, hear her story and what she's gone through, because that was one. After Nettie put this together, I was like, I wonder if there is a survivor that made it through this and what they have to say. And that's when I found this, and I was like, wow, I can't even begin to imagine. Let me get over here to the comments real quick before we hop off of here. What the heck is a blow pop? You know what a blow pop is, Uncle Lisa? Uncle Lisa, no s'mores? You didn't know what s'mores are? Now you don't know what a blow pop is? Oh, man. Tell me someone explain that. Winston non-filters. Oh, man. Snacks. All right. Instantly is a term experts use to comfort Timmy. Spending time with his mom. Did I delete that comment? I don't know what comment. That's just terrible, having to choose between relatives like that. I mean, it would be cool if her relatives were in Wisconsin. She had like a relative in California, and then she had a relative somewhere else. And she like barely knew the one that she chose to go live with. But she kind of at least knew them versus she didn't know the other one. And that's how she ended up choosing. And I can't even imagine that. And you're leaving like, imagine being a 13-year-old kid. You've lived there your whole life. So all your friends are there and you're leaving them all. Or even the night of the incident, she's sleeping on somebody from her church's fold out couch. That's the comfort that she had the night that her parents, that she went through this horrific incident. You know what I mean? I can't imagine. Right, Nomadic Hippie. Yeah, it was a really hard article, for sure. But I did think it was important to kind of draw attention to that. I know we make light a lot of the time in the comment section, and I love doing that. The bridge burner. Oh, you said just joking. Okay. When you said what's s'mores, I was like, if you don't know, you've got to go watch Uncle Lisa's video.
He makes an amazing s'more.
Yeah, I know we make light, and that's how I actually get through a lot of this true crime stuff, is making light when joking with you all. But then there are some times where it's like, well, we do need to touch on like how this did affect somebody's life, you know, and
BB, can you talk more about how we're starting to change up our lives as far as, you know, before BB didn't know the story
Oh
of
yeah.
now,
So
or yeah,
yeah, Nettie does a lot of work on putting together these stories. And when we originally started these lives, Nettie and I kind of did it where Nettie would do the research and then she liked to surprise me with the stories. So it would be a surprise what we were going to do, and I would get just as much of a surprise as you guys would. But then
yeah.
we did a
It
recent.
was the what's his name that's missing. We both knew
Oh,
that story.
yeah, we did a true crime with the boy that was missing,
The
and his
farmer.
grandparents
Yeah,
had bought him the property, and I already knew the story, and she did the research on the story. So we had a real good back and forth conversation on that, and we liked the way that went. So now we're both doing a little bit more of. She's kind of picking what she wants to do, and then I'm putting in a little bit of research as well. So we'll both be bringing kind of our own bit of information to the lives on Sunday, and we hope you guys like
yeah,
that take as well. Um, so you'll have to let us know what you think of that. And as always, if you have a case you want us to cover, comment, let us know, and
mm-hmm.
we'll look into it. Um, don't forget to go check out Nettie's video she just put out on Saturday. Her link is always in the description
Yeah.
of the video.
I appreciate
Uh,
that.
and with that being said, thanks for joining us on this wonderful Sunday. It was great to be back, and I love chatting with all of you over there. And we'll be back next Sunday with a new story.
Yep, sounds great.
Wishing y'all much kindness and much love.
And we're sending love your way. Good
Bye,
night.
everyone.